In cities around the world, people will gather this week to drink a little more than their fair share of whiskey, sing some very old songs, and read poetry to a savory pudding. Sounds a little curious? Well, agreed. Luckily, here to explain what we're talking about is the guy behind GBH's Curiosity Desk, Edgar B. Herwick III. Welcome.
Thank you.
So Robert Burns.
Yeah, that's what you just described as kind of typical of a Burns supper. And a Burns supper is held in honor of the poet, writer, song collector Robert Burns, who was a Scottish writer in the 1700s. His birthday was January 25th, and he was embraced in his time by the people of Scotland as very Scottish. His themes were things like humor, but also fairness, liberty, justice, and crucially, he wrote much of his work in the Scots language or Scots dialect of English. And that was a big deal, too, because it was sort of more of a common tongue. And so the idea that he was elevating this common tongue is something that was very embraced by the people of Scotland and still embraced by the people of Scotland today.
Yeah, that's great. It's like a preservation of that language.
That's right.
That's wonderful.
Right. Indeed.
So what do people do? What happens on Burns Night?
Yeah, Burns Night.
Yeah.
So they have a Burns supper. This is what happens. And this started just 5 years after his death. So he died young at the age of 37 in the late 1700s. And 5 years after his death, a bunch of his friends got together in this cottage where he grew up in Scotland. And they said, let's celebrate him. So they read some poetry, they sang some of his songs, and they dined on neeps and tatties and haggis, and a big central sort of piece of the Burns supper, which continues today. I mean, essentially, the Burns suppers that happen now are some version of that. Everyone's a little different, but they read his poetry, they drink a lot of whiskey, and they eat haggis, and they usually perform his poem, Address to a Haggis, which is basically this very sort of medium-length poem that's all about just how delicious and wonderful and great haggis is.
Neeps and
tatties.
What is that?
I think that's potatoes and turnips, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And haggis, which is, of course...
And haggis, which is like a sort of sausagey, puddingy kind of bunch of pieces of the sheep grounded up together.
Do you like haggis?
I've had it. I don't not like it.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say I like it either.
I was vegetarian for a long time. I'm not anymore, but...
I'm sure that they make vegetarian haggis.
Oh, my God. But I accidentally ate head cheese.
Okay. How was that?
Didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
It was so good, but didn't know what it was until after, and then felt quite sick. Okay, so Burns Night.
So I was thinking we could go maybe one level deeper on Robert Burns with a little true and false game. So I figure I'm going to give you a little something, and then you tell me whether it's true or false, sort of related to Burns.
Okay,
if you're game for doing
a quiz. Let's do
little,
it. Yeah,
little quizzy thing.
Okay.
All right, so our first question, your question is true or false? There are more than 60 statues of Robert Burns around the world, including one here in Boston. 60 statues of this Scottish writer around the world. True or false?
That sounds true.
It is true.
Okay.
It is indeed true. You didn't even have to think about it.
Where's the one in Boston?
The one in Boston is in the Fens, Back Bay Fens, right? And you're seeing right here an image of it when it wasn't at the Fens. There's a funny story. It went up in 1920, and then in the 70s, when they were, in the 1970s, they were redoing Winthrop Square. And this statue disappeared from the Fens and appeared in Winthrop Square. Nobody was really sure why it happened. They wanted to put a statue of John Winthrop in Winthrop Square, but that statue was like damaged, and so they just grabbed this Robert Burns one. But a few years ago, they returned it back to its original location in the Fens. It's a bizarre story, bizarre Boston story.
For a reason, or?
No, I mean, I think there was just a movement to like, hey, why don't we put this statue back? I think they redid Winthrop Square yet again, and so they were like, this is a good opportunity to get the statue out.
And he has a dog with him.
He does have a dog with him.
Yeah.
Scotch Terrier, probably.
Nice.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scotland. All right, let's do another question.
Okay.
Yes? Okay, so true or false, true or false. Here we go. Let's bring it up on the screen. Burns was born in Scotland, Ayrshire, but was living and working in Jamaica when he first published. His debut was a hit, and he was able to return to Scotland and become a full-time writer. Is that true or false?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know anything about Robert Burns, so I'm just going to say that's true. They're all true.
That one is false.
Okay.
But it's interesting because it was almost true, and that's kind of one of the more controversial pieces of his legacy.
Okay, why is that?
So the deal is he was about to go to Jamaica. He had signed on to go to Jamaica, but then he actually published in Scotland had fame and never had to go to Jamaica. But the job he was going to take in Jamaica was on a sugar plantation, which had slave labor.
This was the 1700s.
The 1700s,
yeah.
And this is one of these things, especially because of why he's embraced in the themes of his writing, these things about justice, about giving a voice to the voiceless, all of these sort of themes. I think for some people, they grapple a little bit with the idea that even though he didn't go, he almost went, that he had sort of taken this job and almost went and took this job working at a place where there was slave labor. They sort of find that hard to square with the Robert Burns and the Robert Burns writing that is sort of celebrated today.
You mentioned this Maya Angelou documentary.
Yeah, there's another piece of his legacy that, sometimes right now is sort of viewed as potentially problematic is his relationship with women. So, scholars and even casual fans, you'll hear them talk about Robert Burns, and you'll sort of get this range of everything from, like, oh, he really loved the ladies, to, well, he was a little promiscuous, to he might have had problematic relationships with women. And so that's something that I think, depending on where you are in that spectrum, people sort of grapple with that a little bit. But I would say there's this very interesting documentary that was done in 1996. Maya Angelou, the American poet, she was deeply impacted by Burns's work when she was a young woman. And they did this wonderful special in 1996 where she traveled to his homeland and got to meet these Burns scholars, and they talk about Burns, and they experience all of this stuff. And there's, in that special, which I would highly recommend anybody look up, there's a great conversation that she has with these Burns scholars about his relationship with women. It's very interesting, very informative. So that's, if you can't get to a Burns night on the 25th, a good thing to do is check out this documentary. It's called Angelou on Burns.
That sounds, the reckoning of those things sounds really interesting.
Yeah, very interesting stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. You want to do one more?
Yeah, let's do it.
One more?
Yeah,
All right,
no,
one
yeah,
last,
yeah, okay.
One last true and false question. All right, here you go. This one's pretty simple. Let's get it up. Robert Burns wrote Auld Lang Syne, which we sing here in the U.S. on New Year's. Is that true or is that false?
I'm going to just go with true again because I'm just going to say true.
You know what the good news is here? Both answers would have been right, essentially. You could not have been wrong on this one. So he is credited with writing it, writing the lyrics at least, right? And he said even when he published it that at least the first verse was his version of something that he had heard back in the past. So the idea is that there was some sort of poem out there that was very much like the first verse of this, which he had heard from older people, and he codified it and wrote it down, and then wrote the later verses. And so it was a poem, but it was also a song. Originally, it had a different melody than the one we have today. It's a little unclear. Burns did not like that original melody. It's a little unclear if the melody that's sung today was the one that he intended. But either way, he didn't write the melody. That was also a traditional melody. So he wrote it, but he didn't write it.
It's a remix of work.
And, of course, we sing it on New Year's here in the U.S. today thanks to a group of performers from Canada.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
Guy
really
Lombardo
quick,
and his Royal Canadians.
Wow.
Yeah.
So really quick, what are your Burns night plans?
My Burns night plans are, I do not think I'm going to be going to a Burns supper this year.
Okay.
But I will probably maybe check one out remotely because you can find some of them happening remotely. And I do have some friends in Scotland who I anticipate will be sending me drunk texts and emails and videos at some point.
Yeah. Amazing. Edgar B. Herwick III, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tori.
Thanks.